You wake up tired, not because you worked too hard, but because your mind never stops working. You replay conversations that already ended. You analyze words people didn't even mean. You feel irritated, misunderstood, disconnected, and you don't fully know why. You are not lazy, you are not broken, and you are not weak. You are thinking too much in a world that punishes thinking. This is the condition of the underground mind. There is a type of person who suffers not because life is cruel, but because they see too clearly. They notice contradictions. They feel hypocrisy. They understand motives people hide, even from themselves. And that awareness slowly becomes a curse. The underground mind is not loud. It does not protest. It does not rebel openly. It withdraws. It observes quietly while resentment grows underneath. This person knows too much to believe in simple optimism, yet knows too little to escape the system completely. They are stuck between awareness and powerlessness. Self-awareness, in theory, is supposed to make life better, but there is a point where self-awareness turns against you. You start questioning every impulse, every desire, every emotion. You hesitate, then hesitate again. Action feels dishonest. Confidence feels fake. Certainty feels dangerous. So you do nothing, and then you hate yourself for doing nothing. The underground mind understands cause and effect too well. It knows that every action has consequences, and that knowledge paralyzes it. Where others act instinctively, the underground mind pauses. Where others enjoy simple pleasures, the underground mind asks whether those pleasures are real or just distractions designed to keep people obedient. This is not intelligence in the heroic sense. This is intelligence turned inward, sharp, corrosive, and self-destructive. The more you understand yourself, the harder it becomes to act naturally. You stop trusting your own emotions. You analyze your anger until it loses meaning. You dissect your desires until they feel artificial. Eventually, even happiness feels suspicious. You begin to feel superior to others, not because you want to, but because you cannot unsee what you see. You notice how people lie politely, how they adopt opinions that benefit them, how they perform morality when someone is watching. And that awareness creates distance. Not loneliness exactly, but separation. You feel like you live underground while everyone else lives comfortably on the surface. The underground mind does not believe in progress the way society does. It does not believe that more systems, more rules, more logic will fix human suffering. Because it knows something uncomfortable. Humans are not rational creatures. They are emotional, contradictory, and often self-sabotaging. No system can fix that. The underground mind sees how society worships efficiency, productivity, and happiness while ignoring the complexity of the human soul. You are expected to be functional, to smile appropriately, to want what you are told to want. And when you don't fit into that pattern, you are labeled difficult, pessimistic, or broken. So you hide. You suppress your thoughts. You learn when to stay silent. You let others speak first. But silence does not bring peace. It allows resentment to ferment. The underground mind begins to enjoy its own bitterness, not because bitterness feels good, but because it feels honest. Pain becomes proof of awareness. If life hurts, at least it feels real. There is a strange comfort in dissatisfaction, a perverse pride in refusing easy answers. The underground mind would rather suffer consciously than be happy blindly. It despises optimism that ignores reality. It resents people who claim to have life figured out. Because deep down, it knows they are lying, to themselves most of all. This is the beginning of the underground condition. You want connection, but you distrust people. You want meaning, but you reject imposed values. You want freedom, but you fear the responsibility that comes with it. So you remain underground, thinking, judging, observing, suffering. And the worst part is this: the underground mind knows it is hurting itself. It understands its own self-destruction in perfect detail. And still, it continues, because acting differently would require faith, faith in people, faith in systems, faith in life itself. And faith is something the underground mind has already dissected to death. So it waits, not for hope, not for salvation, but for truth, even if that truth hurts. This is the beginning of the underground condition. The underground mind does not suffer quietly by accident. It suffers because it is constantly at war with society, with people, and with itself. Society demands simplicity, clear roles, clear goals, clear obedience. But the underground mind sees through these demands. It sees how social rules are designed less for truth and more for control. How morality often exists to keep behavior predictable. How success is praised not for its meaning but for its appearance. And this realization creates hostility. Not loud rebellion, but silent resistance. The underground mind begins to resent society not because it is cruel, but because it is dishonest. People say one thing and desire another. They praise virtue but reward power. They speak of freedom while demanding conformity. The underground mind notices these contradictions everywhere, at work, in relationships, in social movements, in friendships. And once you see this, you can never fully unsee it. This awareness isolates you. You stop trusting praise because it feels conditional. You stop trusting kindness because it often hides self-interest. You stop trusting systems because they benefit those who already have power. So you withdraw emotionally. But withdrawal does not bring clarity, it brings stagnation. The underground mind becomes obsessed with its own thoughts. It turns inward, analyzing every interaction after it ends, replaying moments, imagining alternate responses. You think of what you should have said, what you could have done, what you wanted to be, but weren't. This constant self-reflection does not improve you, it exhausts you. The underground mind believes it is protecting itself by thinking more. In reality, it is slowly suffocating itself. There is a dangerous illusion here, the belief that understanding everything will eventually lead to peace. It won't. Understanding without action becomes torture. The underground mind understands that humans often act against their own interests. They choose comfort over growth, approval over truth, belonging over integrity. And this realization creates its bitterness. You begin to feel disgust, not only towards others, but towards yourself. Because you are not immune to these weaknesses. You crave validation even while despising it. You want recognition even while rejecting hierarchy. You desire connection even while pushing people away. This contradiction creates self-loathing. The underground mind punishes itself for wanting what it claims to despise. And here is the darkest part. The underground mind begins to sabotage itself intentionally. Not out of stupidity, but out of defiance. If society expects productivity, you resist effort. If success is celebrated, you reject ambition. If happiness is demanded, you cling to dissatisfaction. Pain becomes an act of rebellion. Suffering becomes proof that you cannot be fully controlled. You tell yourself that failure is more honest than success, that resentment is more authentic than hope, that bitterness is more truthful than optimism. And sometimes you deliberately choose what hurts you just to assert your freedom. This is not strength, it is wounded pride masquerading as independence. The underground mind refuses to be predictable, even if predictability destroys it.
It rejects rational self-interest because rationality feels like submission. Society says, be logical, be efficient, be useful. The underground mind replies, no, I will choose chaos if that is the only way to remain free. But chaos does not liberate, it consumes. The underground mind becomes trapped in its own rebellion, unable to move forward, unwilling to surrender. It criticizes everything, relationships, careers, beliefs, yet commits to nothing. It understands human weakness, but offers no alternative. It despises shallow happiness, but cannot build deeper meaning. So it remains suspended, between contempt and longing. This is the core darkness of the underground condition. Not ignorance, not oppression, but the refusal to accept any reality that demands compromise. And in that refusal, the underground mind slowly turns against itself.
The underground mind eventually reaches a point where resistance becomes exhausting, not because the world has changed, but because constant opposition requires energy it no longer has. This is where the final realization begins. The underground mind does not suffer because it understands too little. It suffers because it understands too much without direction. It mistook awareness for wisdom. It believed that seeing through illusions was enough, but insight without purpose becomes decay. The truth the underground mind avoids is simple and deeply uncomfortable. Life does not reward understanding. It rewards participation. Meaning is not discovered by endless analysis. It is created through imperfect action. The underground mind despised compromise because it associated compromise with weakness. But total refusal was not strength either. It was avoidance disguised as superiority. There is no pure position in life, no untouched moral ground. Every path demands sacrifice, and refusing to choose is still a choice, one that leads nowhere. The underground mind believed suffering made it authentic, that pain was proof of honesty. But suffering by itself proves nothing. Pain can deepen understanding, or it can become a hiding place. The underground mind used pain as shelter, a place where it could remain superior without risking failure, because failure requires effort, and effort requires belief. Here is the final truth. Humans do not seek happiness. They seek justification for their existence. They want to feel necessary. They want their pain to mean something. The underground mind rejected happiness not because it was shallow, but because happiness felt undeserved. It believed it must suffer to remain truthful. But truth does not require self-destruction. Awareness does not demand paralysis. Freedom does not require isolation. The underground mind feared becoming ordinary. It feared being absorbed by the same systems it criticized. But refusing to live is not resistance. It is surrender in disguise. The world will never be honest. People will remain contradictory. Power will continue to reward those who seek it. None of this changes. What changes is the choice you make with that knowledge. You can remain underground, an observer, a critic, a silent judge. Or you can accept a more difficult truth, that acting imperfectly is braver than thinking perfectly, that meaning is built through commitment, not certainty, that engaging with life, even cynically, is still more alive than rejecting it completely. The underground mind was not insane, it was unfinished. Its awareness was real, its pain was real, but its refusal to move forward was not wisdom, it was fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being ordinary, fear of being vulnerable. The final lesson is not optimism, it is responsibility. Responsibility to choose, responsibility to act, responsibility to accept that life will never align perfectly with your ideals. And that is not a betrayal of truth. It is the price of living. The underground condition ends not when the world becomes honest, but when you stop demanding perfection as a condition for participation. This is not hope. It is clarity. And clarity for the underground mind is the only freedom that ever mattered.